Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Toast to the Art show. And also this is part of our Big Daily Blend podcasting as well, because on that show, we celebrate holidays. This month, April, is International Guitar Month. And so we better have one of the best guitarists on the planet on the show today, because he definitely crosses international borders with his music. We've got Jon Durant back on the show. And he's got a brand new album out. Oh boy, this is one of the best. I'm telling you, I love to sit back with his music and drink wine. But then I told him before we started recording, I think we have to elevate to cognac. It's not necessarily elevation, but it's just, this album is deep. It's beautiful. And there's bittersweet in there. Let's put it that way. It's very real. And it's deep. Everybody's going to have a different thing when they listen, but I really appreciate this album. It's called Momentarily, and I encourage you to go to Jon's website. You can go on Bandcamp, right? JonDurant.bandcamp.com. But welcome back, Jon. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. It's wonderful to talk with you again.
Hey, I go back to the very first time you were on the show. It was a happy hour, and you were supposed to be on for half a happy hour?
Half a happy hour.
Did we do a 2-hour happy hour? What happened?
It got fun for a little while.
Yeah, we have. Every time is fun with you, and it was even more fun when we got to meet you in person a couple years back in Oregon.
Indeed,
that was cool. But listen, Momentarily, do you? I mean, to me, it's very deep, and that's why I say I don't want to say cognac is better than wine, because it's not. Everything's just a different style or flavor, right? But there's something deep where you really just sit with this.
It's much more of it's definitely after dinner drink music. You want to sit and just absorb and take it all in. And it's a reasonable length for doing that. It's about 45 minutes long, and it's definitely an engrossing listen.
Mm-hmm. And you understand what I mean about bittersweet?
Mm-hmm. Oh yes. Oh, definitely. The thing is, this album for me, it's a really personal record, and the whole concept, Momentarily, and the opening and closing pieces, in a moment and for a moment. All of these were designed, each piece, they were all moments in time. As with my album, Parting Is, they were improvisations that I had the foresight to hit record, and then took it and rearranged it. And in this case, I rearranged these pieces for a trio with bass and drums, and then me on guitar synth. And the timing of these things happening is somewhat important, because I had taken a bit of a break in 2021. I had finished up a ton of work. You know how busy I was during the pandemic, with all the different projects with different people from all over the world, and all wonderful, all exciting, and I loved every bit of it. But I reached the point where I was overloaded. My brain just, I needed to shut down for a little while. And what ended up happening was, so I took a little break, and then that was the end of 2021. In February 2022, what happened? Russia invaded Ukraine. And
that is
I
personal.
immediately, and I invited Ina Covton and her daughter, who at the time was 7, just about to turn 8. She's now just about to turn 10.
Wow.
They came and lived with us. And so what was my studio became the girls' room. So for a long time, I had to sort of knock on the door. Is it okay if I practice for a little while? That kind of thing. And so I really didn't do much for a while. And then the following fall, the fall of 22, I kind of got dragged back in by Stefan Thalen offering up new music for what is the a forthcoming Fractal Sextet album, which it's going to come out in the fall. So I started having to do some work, and Ina was working during the school hours at that point. So I had 8 to 2 to, help myself in here and get back to work. So I started working a lot and made these pieces, and a lot of things were happening at that point. And so, for instance, there's a song called Rockets on Kyiv.
Oh, yeah.
And that morning, there was, the news was, the day before, Ukraine had bombed the Kerch Bridge out to Crimea. And Russia responded by blowing up a glass pedestrian bridge in the center of Kyiv that has no military function whatsoever. It's a beautiful bridge. We filmed some of the video for Hanachka on the Edwin Durant Cofton album on that bridge. So
I remember, yeah.
It was a really powerful, harsh, morning for me. And I did this piece, and when I take off on the solo on there, it's pretty intense. But in a way, it's still very introspective. Is that the right way of looking at it?
Because also, it's connected personally and also with Ina. And, I want to just kind of go back a second there for folks to understand, some of the work that you've done with Ina and also Edwin. Just tell everybody a little bit about that with Colin Edwin on bass, so you've got these musical partners all around the world. So that's why I was saying it's International Guitar Month. This is the perfect person to be on the show today. Yeah.
Sure. So Colin Edwin is the bassist that I work with. He's on the album Momentarily. He and I have worked together for, I want to say 12 years now. And done a ton of things together with our group Burnt Belief. He's played on some of my solo albums. I've played on some of his work. Plus he got involved with the Ukrainian ensemble, called Astarta. And in 2012, we went over and played a show in Kyiv. And then, the singer in that group was Ina Kovton, and we did an album together in 2018, and then I believe it came out in 2019, but we did it in 2017, 18. And, so we've had this ongoing association, and, that's how Ina and I became very close. And when the war happened, her husband sent them to Krakow, Poland initially. And they weren't very comfortable, and we said, come on over. Let's, So we made them a home and a family. And, for a year and a half, they lived with us. They now have their own place, which is great, except I never see them, and I'm very sad about that.
I know you get used to someone being there every day, right?
Yeah, they're special. But also I should point out the percussionist on Momentarily is, Andi Pupato, who, I first heard when he played with, Nick Birch's Ronan, who are a Swiss band. And, he is an incredibly gifted and, percussion. It's weird. It's really unusual to have somebody who you hear him hit one thing and you go, oh, hey, that's Andi. But in his case, he's actually designed some of his own instruments. And so as soon as you hear this weird sort of metallic thing, it's like, oh, Andi, it's just remarkable how unique he is. And
you can really hear it on Momentarily. I mean,
oh my gosh.
It's like, the sounds on there, I think what got me was Bitter Wind.
Yeah.
I'm going to go there, right, with that.
Yeah, for sure.
It, and I always talk about how you go tribal, but it's like it's a slow tribal sound, and it's still, it's like ethnically ethereal, and it's just Boy, can tell I haven't been drinking wine yet. I could say that. Wow.
Well, and one of the things I had him do, I went over to Zurich to spend a couple of days with him, going through the music and working on how we were going to attack it. And the first thing I said was, I'm thinking about the record label ECM and the space that they have and the way the drummers play with very little movement. And I said, I like that idea, but I really want more ethnic percussion to come through. And maybe there's a way we can build a hybrid kit where you're hitting a cymbal and using your kick drum, but then you're using, instead of the rest of the drum kit, it's all hand drums. And so we kind of developed this thing and worked through the music and how we would approach it. And then over the course of the next 6 to 8 months, he started, in his off time, he would work on these and build his tracks and make it work. And my goodness, he's just remarkable.
When listening to it, I just want to say, folks, you put it up loud, be absorbed. Don't have any other sound going on. Like for me, I just put headsets on, and if you have surround sound, dude, I can't wait for that.
I didn't mix it in surround, but I will tell you that, I've listened to it critically up next to, other things that I listen to. And the first thing that stands out to me is that Colin's bass is just so, he's playing all acoustic bass and it's just so full and
it's like a balance. It's like the background. Yeah. It does that. He feels it where let's go into, I want people to understand what you do as a guitarist because it is very unique. There's not very many people who do that. Number one, this fretless thing, I don't know. I need structure because I'd be all over the place, but it's very much become my thing. Fretless guitar, very few people do this. And for me, I guess I got mine in, I want to say 2016, but my history with it goes way, way, way back to 1978 when, my old guitar teacher was playing a fretless guitar and he had an infinite sustained pickup built in and those didn't exist. He had to create this whole thing from scratch. And I just thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever heard. Curiosity killed the cat.
Yeah, right. And so for all these years, I thought about it and was like, well, I can't do that because Randy does that. Well, I finally convinced myself to go ahead and do it. And, it was just enlightening from the word go. I felt like I could phrase in a way that has nothing whatsoever to do with guitar. Right. I could make Middle Eastern phrases. I could make Indian phrases and I can do all of these things, but they don't sound like an oud, for instance, even though I'm playing phrases that might be similar to an oud. It sounds like something completely different and unusual. Plus I use all my processing and everything. So you end up with, I've stumbled upon the term transcultural jazz. I'm pulling all these cultural elements in. It's jazz, it's improvisation.
And prog.
And prog. There's, and it's how all of these elements get combined. I mean, we've always talked about this, right? It's like a stew, right? It's like I put this element in and I put this element in and maybe I'm going to bring some of this element in and create something wholly unique. But at the same time, I'd like to think it's also really enjoyable and like, you don't need to have a PhD in music to appreciate it.
No.
I'll tell you, I had a really interesting comment from a guy that, I know as a fellow avant-garde musician, and he's pretty out there. And he said he had it on in the car, and he was taking his 90-year-old mother to the doctors, and she never does this, but what is this music we're listening to? This is wonderful.
Oh, cool.
I'm like, okay. So
hey, that's cool.
You know, I can appeal to the avant-gardists and their mothers. And
well, no, because there's a soul, there's a soul, and I know we've talked about this before, and I think Momentarily really does it. I think because, like you're saying, there are these moments of you're capturing, you know, these.
Yes, it's a moment in time.
It's emotional, but it's emotion.
Yeah.
Moment and emotion go together, right?
Yes.
And there is this there's a lot. I always hear Middle Eastern, and I've heard African in there, and we've talked about that, some East African sides of things, obviously Scandinavian, and you know, when you get those together, I mean, the Middle East and Europe are hand in hand. I mean, they always have been in music. I mean, you know, Scottish in their bagpipes, well, they came from the Middle East. So, you know, it's all of that connection. So it's really about timelessness, right? And, you know, when you think about this album, that's why I said bittersweet. It's really very deep emotion. That's what I feel like going. And so it's an emotive thing. And when you have instrumentals like this, people just kind of listen, and you really are transported, and it is timeless. You could listen to this in any era and enjoy it. And at the same time, you're taking in these moments, like when you're talking about, you know, rockets on Kyiv. This is part of history, but it's a piece of history that happened and is recycling itself again. This is history from the past that is back down in the present, right?
Yep.
And it's the same thing of, you know, when we're looking at what's happening in Israel. The world is a little messy right now, and it's very depressing and sad.
And shouldn't we have learned better by now?
Yeah, well, you know, but I think we've got these crazy rulers of dictator mindsets around the world right now. And I look at it this way. Sometimes, you know, the snake rises up and is always going to want one more bite before it dies. And I look at this as, are we at the end of this kind of behavior? Because we have a new generation with a different lifestyle and mindset. We have all around the world. So. There is there's a positivity coming, right? Even in the music world, it used to be sex, drugs, and rock and roll is now changed over a little bit, right? You're seeing musicians drinking smoothies before they go, like green smoothies before they go on stage. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little disappointed in that, but I just can't help it. Okay,
you know, but the thing is, right? I think about like Tony Levin, for instance, the great bass player who works with Peter Gabriel and King Crimson and everybody. He's played with everybody, and he played on my first 5 albums. And I love Tony to death. And he was telling me it was about the 3rd Peter Gabriel tour that they all realized we're not going to be able to do this for long if we don't take seriously, you know, how to keep yourself healthy. And here he is in his has Tony turned 80 yet? And he's still out there just knocking it out of the park. I mean, he's unbelievable. And, you know, and that was just his conscious decision with his bandmates saying that game, you know, that's not going to afford you a life.
You know, that's the same thing. You know, we interviewed Lucas Nelson. He's the son of Willie Nelson. And incredible band. I mean, and you'd like the percussion in there. The percussion's good. And because they merge, you know, we all like a blend around here with the big blend.
Right.
But they say, you know, country, surf, and rock, you know. But he's a very kind soul, and not very egotistical. But I've seen stuff when they first got it started, and And he was talking on the show and he's like, dude, he's like, we had, this era was like us drinking on the road. And now he's like, I don't even smoke weed, but people would give him like tons of weed whenever
Of
they
course.
went
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah.
Like in the night he was on the road when he called us into the show. It was back in our live broadcast days. And that's like when we met you, same time frame, I think. And he called in on the tour on the bus, right? And he loves his buses. And that night he did a show. Someone made a wreath out of weed. And there it was on stage with him, this wreath, like a Christmas wreath of weed. And I'm like, holy cow. And he said, really on the show, he goes, dude, no. He said, this was like the pre-drinking. I mean, the drinking before, and now like the whole band, like they jog when they get somewhere. The first thing he does goes to a hotel room and checks in or whatever and jogs and gets, stuff out of his system that way. And he's like, your performance when you get up on stage, people have a drink or two or whatever. I think Stevie Nicks, even after all her rehab, has a shot of tequila before she performs. That kind of whatever, that's fine. But there's about being really conscious within what you're doing. And you're conscious, but you're totally tripping out. You listen to your music. That's like total tripped out. You're tripping out all the time.
This is the thing, right? People might think that I indulge in such things while I'm working, and I totally don't. I'm more than happy to have a lovely cocktail and a glass of wine or whatever, but not while I'm working.
Yeah.
And I need to be conscious. I need to be, consciously there in the moment, because if I'm not, then things go off the rails. And I just don't feel like there are people who, swore up and down that, when they were stoned, they could play much better. I'm sorry. No.
Yeah. I know it I know it from our old band stuff, what happened. And I learned even with myself, no, don't have that extra glass of wine and go up on stage. You stupid girl. What are you doing? And it didn't help your voice either, So No. But going back to, this is the thing, what I was going to say is like, this is a very heavy album and deep, but you always bring light in there. And I think that the album is as deep as it is also has that complete contrast of a moment is over now, Mm-hmm. So even though the whole thing flows one from the other, right? I don't know how you guys always make that work, but you do.
I'm conscious of that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's good. It's like, okay. And this is a journey. You have this balance of bringing some levity into there that is so important and like Nancy and I were talking about this the other day about you. We were listening and she's like, he is the ultimate of dynamics. Like you really get it. We always talk about dynamics. It's our favorite thing about music because you can't force dynamics and it's such a subtle, and you have it. And she's like, well, he's the king of dynamics. And,
the people I work with make, like I sculpted, again, my job as the composer on these, right? These are improvisations by me that I then turned into compositions. And part of that is that I very strongly structure the dynamic flow that, Andi has to then work around with his percussion. And, my notes for him involved, as much as anything, I need you to build from, bar 43 to 48, right? That kind of thing are crucial. And then within that context, he can be himself. But dynamics, absolutely.
So you write music, or are you playing in where it can transcribe? I mean, how does that part work with all
yes, so
I know a lot of people just play by eir, and that's how they do it.
And in this case, so it's this is such a complicated one because of the way I built this one, as opposed to like what I do with Burnt Belief. In this case, everything was built on improvisations by me. But then I was like, okay, well, here's the specific bass line, or here's, for Colin, I need you to play this melodic line, like on In a Moment, right? There's like melodic lines that Colin and I are sort of dialoguing, right? There's a conversation happening. And so, but I was very specific. I need you to play this line because then I'm going to follow that line, and that's where it comes, and what have you. But then I also have sections where it's wide open for him to do what he wants, as long as he knows he's got to come in on bar whatever with the next iteration of the melody. So yeah, I mean, and again, a lot of it, like, not always raining. The whole thing is written around the bass line. Everything revolves around this, and again, I did it when I first did it. It was just a loop, right? That I played on guitar, and then I, transcribed it for bass and built all the other, the way I did it, I redid everything, so I did my improvisation, and then I redid once I had structured what the piece would be. Rocky is another one. That, speaking of alcoholic beverages, do you know what that is?
No. What?
Oh,
Tell me.
It's a Turkish drink. It's like in the south of France, they drink pastis, right? It's very similar to pastis.
Okay.
But it's like the national drink of Turkey. Anyway, that one, again, sort of had this, everything kind of based around this bass line. And that one, I don't think I even redid. I think I just took, because I had the original loop on a separate track, so I just cut the whole thing live and then built everybody's parts from there.
Wow.
So, yeah.
It's amazing to me how that communication goes, like, because especially when it's instrumental, as a vocalist, I'm like, oh, by this word. And then, we have a couple lines here and you guys do your thing, so is that, you know what I mean? Come on. Know that happens, right? It's difficult for me when it comes to instrumental. It's so hard that we were, Nancy and I travel and pet sitters, we travel the country full time, and we were at a sit in Charlotte the other day, and the lady has this beautiful piano, Boston piano, and she was like training herself to sit and learn and read the music. And Nancy and I used to teach people, how to play keys and all of that, and still I sat down at one of her it was "Come Sail Away," right? I couldn't help it. As soon as I hit one note, I'm not reading the music. I'm playing by ear.
I'm just following myself. Yeah.
I can't help it. And it's like the same thing she has. And she's like, that's why I play guitar way better than keys. I suck on both of them. I'm not anywhere close to Jon Durant. Okay. I would never ever play in front of you. I'd sing in front of you, but no way in hell would I ever play any kind of instrument. Not even a tambourine. Some people should stop that. I have a thing on that. No tambourining. This thing where musicians give the tambourine because they think this girl's a hot chick. Stop it. Because a lot of people do not know how to play a tambourine. I think Stevie Nicks is the only one. So anyways, enough of the rant. But that's the thing about how to have this communication when it's all instrumental. That is to me it blows my mind personally.
And to me, one of the things that's remarkable about this album, because everybody understood the vibe I wanted to create, and part of that vibe is I wanted it to feel like we're all in the room together, and we're all playing this live. And I think it really feels like that. I think everybody made it work in a way that, there's the way that Andi interacts with Colin. Colin will play something and Andi will hit it just like the two of them are looking at each other going, yeah, that's it right there. And,
cool.
and, that's about that's about listening. You know, every one of us as players are as active listeners as we are, you know, actually playing. So.
No, that's the huge part. You can't, that's why your dynamics are tuned in
Mm-hmm.
because you're listening,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
And that's what it's so wild when you listen to these kinds of albums because every time you listen to it, you're going to hear something different. And it will also go and co-create with your own emotion of the day, you know, your own mood, you know, your feeling, your vibe. But it's one of those to go to where you need to just, you know, with the way the world is crazy, even though it's dealing with some of those moments, right? You need this kind of thing as an outlet to kind of breathe it in and breathe it out. And music is
take
like
a moment
a healing. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
It's healing.
Yeah.
It's healing, you know, and you know, you're not alone. I mean, the world is not alone in grief right now.
No.
I'm just saying,
No.
you know,
No.
not at all, but musicians coming together, you know, and listening to this. And then there's that whole part where we're always listening, you know, and it's like, no one talk to me. Just shut up, leave me alone. I'm listening, you know. It's weird because it's like, it's a career and a job, but it's like, if you really love it, you love it, right? Re-listening. Do you ever have to walk away from listening and go, I need a fresh, clean listen?
Oh, all the time, actually, because unfortunately, you know, I'm sure we talked about this when I was a kid, you know, in the original vinyl days, not the resurfaced vinyl days, but the original ones, right? I would go and I would put an album on, and for 45 minutes, my attention was entirely devoted to that album. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, it's just not the case anymore. It's really hard. And sometimes the problem is that I've been so busy musically. I have an awful lot of music coming out of me that it's often very hard for me to just sit and listen to somebody else's music. And then there are things like, okay, well, I too have vinyl again, like a lot of people, and a good turntable. And of course I get incensed with bad pressings and, you know, record noise and stuff that shouldn't be there, but is, you know, and so it's all of that takes away from my just diving into the music sometimes because I'm thinking about, God, the bass should be more present on this, shouldn't it? Can I get in and remix this, please?
Wow. Yeah. Well, Prince
so it's hard,
was like that. Prince was like that.
Yeah, well, totally. Because he couldn't, I'm sure he couldn't listen to somebody else's music without thinking, how do I fix this?
Yeah, he didn't. I mean, he would go waltzing in and fix people's things. There's so many stories of him going in and just being like the fixer.
I can only imagine. I mean, I mean, you know.
Yeah. I get it. You know, I know you're a photographer. I get like that with photography too.
Sure.
It annoys me when people put up photos and look at this is so beautiful. Everybody goes and I'm going, dude, your horizon line. Like it's like a pet peeve. It's like the tambourine thing. Now here comes another rant. Damn it. The horizon line. It's the most basic thing to do in a photo, you know?
Yeah.
Balance the damn thing. You know, that's why it's all right. Even the word, isn't it? Or am I just being mean?
No,
I am being mean.
No. The thing is, when you know, you know.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it's okay not to know, right? It's okay
it's okay not to know. I mean, that's, you know, but.
Yeah. We're going to rant again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
so no, but I love this. I'm so excited and it's out today, everybody. Out on streaming, but you can also go get it on Bandcamp. So go to jondurant.bandcamp.com. The link is in the show notes. So it's Jon, Jon. Just speaking of that, can we tell everybody the importance of purchasing through Bandcamp? Because I think it's the only, I mean, I know they changed hands or something. So Is this like the last
have,
spot to help? And
yeah.
Spotify, you have to get 1,000 listens. So then you can start making what, 3 cents, 1,000 plays?
Yeah, it's absurd. It's absurd. And it's going to get worse because if you don't have whatever their minimal, listenage is, then they're not even going to pay you at all. So,
your minimal, you have to have 1,000 plays.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. Exactly. And, with instrumental music, doesn't get, the people who listen, but, frankly, a lot of them aren't on Spotify.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It's such a mess.
Anyway.
It's a mess. So
it's a mess.
Do people get the whole album, like an actual CD, or is it all
you can get
digital?
You can get an actual, yes, there are actual CDs on Bandcamp. I don't do distribution at this point. I used to years ago, but I gave that up when everything blew up and everybody owed me a bunch of money and went out of business. And that was enough for me. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, there it is. Well,
yeah.
So,
in any case,
Bandcamp is the place then.
Bandcamp is the best solution for the artists at this point. All the streaming stuff, it's fine if you listen on streaming, fine. But if you decide you'll like it,
you better listen to it 1,000 times.
Support, or support the artist. That's all.
Yeah.
It's not. That's all.
Yeah. So, do what you can and share what you like too. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Share music. Share it.
Yeah.
So folks know.
Share it. Tell people. Man, I heard this thing. It was super cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I love this. I can't wait for everyone to hear it. Everyone, jondurant.bandcamp.com. And so you've got more coming out in the fall. Did I hear that correctly?
That is correct. Yeah. There's a new Fractal Sextet coming in the fall, which I'm really excited about. Brilliant album. And
I love it.
That is, Stefan Thalen.
Oh, he's awesome.
Yeah. And Fabio Anile, who's an Italian keyboardist and composer, Colin Edwin and myself, Andi Pupato's in it, and Israeli and Boston-based drummer Yogev Gabe, who is astonishing. And that's seriously great stuff. So
cool. I love this. See, and you are international. There it is. Well, we love it. Well, come back on in the fall. We can't wait for more music. I love it. I love that you have all of this, music coming out and just the Momentarily really just that album. Oh, I love all your music. So you can't go one over the other. You just want to listen to certain ones for certain things, certain moods and just
I try really hard, by the way. I try hard to never make the same album twice.
No, we don't want that.
No,
we don't want that. Yeah.
So, and that's, cool. There we go. All right.
Well, thanks so much, Jon.
My goodness.
You take care.
What a treat as always.
Oh, always good. But now listen, so the cognac, what are you pairing with that? Because I know you love to cook. So do you have a cognac? Oh, well,
because that's,
do you like cognac?
That's for after. I love cognac. Yeah.
Okay.
I have a favorite actually from France. Well, of course it's from France. It'd have to be, wouldn't it? If it's, but Frappin. And, once in a while I can find it in the States, but not very often, but it's gorgeous.
But then you say, okay, I know this is after dinner, but you get to have a nibble if you have a cognac, right? Some people smoke cigars.
Yeah, I mean, I like not a cigar, please.
No, I don't do that.
No, you could certainly have a little like pear tart or something would be lovely.
Ooh, pears and cognac do go well. That's a good pairing. What time is it? It's a good thing we're on the East Coast today.
You're on the East Coast. You're ahead of me.
Yeah, we're recording on a Friday afternoon on the East Coast. I wonder what we're going to do at the end of this. I have one more podcast to go. Then we're gonna re-listen. I think this will be we'll do an after dinner I think nice sunset. Ooh, that's a
Oh, there you go. There you
sunset
go.
music. Love it. Thanks so much,
Beautiful.
Jon. You take
Okay.
care.
See you.